Hey, Abby.
Hey Victor, how you doing?
How are you?
Yeah, pretty well. And VJ's running the show today, so when he gets on, we'll get started. You been enjoying the jumping in on these things? It seems like it's been good
Yeah.
fun to just hear how people are thinking about stuff and learning from people and stuff. I really enjoy the kind of working group process.
It said I literally learned a lot. The two things. One is the way to do things really thoroughly, again and again, go to really make it precise. And of course, second is English. I think the way you go through the wordings, yeah, I really enjoyed it. I learned a lot from both sides of that.
Nice. Yeah, and I mean, I'm enjoying hearing your take on things as well. I think it's an important thing that we we use clarity in our language, right? Uh, and that's not it, like obviously there's a angle of which is, English native versus non-English native, but I think it's not just that, right? It's also based on what your background is and where what you've done in the platform space before and all that. So I think um yeah, it's good to have those conversations and hear how everyone's background reads things differently. So it's good.
Yeah, yeah, because maturity model in a way it's if you define it really casually, there are already so many of them, right? So to really to
Hmm.
get it precisely, it's hard actually.
Definitely. Yeah. Let's see. So I don't particularly have anything to add today. It was Monday the 21st at 7 p.m. BST, 2 p.m. EST.
The Zoom,
Uh,
I'm not sure what
VJ said
every.
VJ said he's waiting for his Zoom to upgrade. So he's trying to log in. He'll be here shortly. So cool. Just be a second. What I might do is actually, I don't know if I can. I don't think I can stop. Please ask the host. Yeah, I was gonna say I could stop the recording and restart it, but um, Josh, I need to get permissions from Josh. Hello, welcome to modern day Zoom.
Yeah, thank you.
Uh,
So, so what happened is that I connected through my work laptop and it has an VPN enabled right
mm.
now. That pushed me to all the way that entire update Zoom according to the policies and
No worries. I feel like I go dancing around. The only one I just it never goes to plan is Teams. Like I've been on all the other ones and I can manage to do it fairly quickly, but Teams every time something goes wrong. So I totally get it. Yeah.
so just there is one thing from my side. First, to start with, thank you for the time, especially because this is the first time I'm experimenting and contributing to these kind of initiatives. And when I was going through that maturity model documentation, I said like, oh wow, I think you all are like 10 steps ahead of me in terms of my thinking. So it has taken good amount of time for me to digest and then understand the model in your way, and your
Mhm.
way means that the team's way of writing. And that actually kept me in a puzzle that whatever that I was thinking as a metrics
Mm.
or for measure,
Mhm.
is it going to be really working or not? And that's where I thought, okay, let's talk to the team. Let me share what I have in my mind, and then start even updating in documents and get, because I don't want to be people to just throw their things right away on that, and I don't want to get into that kind of review mode. So I want to have a quick call to share my each section, what are all the 4 or 5 things that I am planning to define as a KPI or a measure. And then let's start discussing there. And then I take the learning and I'll go and do the homework for the actual PRs to open.
Awesome. That
Yeah,
sounds really good.
awesome.
Yeah.
Then. Thank you. So from my side, I let me share my screen quickly. And, yeah. So the document that I'm going to share is the same Google Docs that we have. So it's not going to be new, but at least for the discussion part. point
Cool.
of view will.
I
Yeah,
have
well,
been messing up getting people access. You have okay access, right? I think I see your email
yeah,
address. Yeah, okay, cool.
yeah, at least in the Google Docs
Perfect.
access, and I'm good. Yeah. So
Perfect.
this is a different email ID. So at my work, so that's why it
No
is
stress. Yeah.
not showing as. But at this point, I have an access wise. It's good. I'm good.
Cool.
So especially like the before I start jumping into this, do you have any questions or anything that you want, or like anything that you want to set up as an expectation in the meeting?
The only thing I would say is don't feel like because the group has worked on some stuff that it's either set in stone or correct. Like I get that it's different than where you were thinking, but it's important to like integrate new thoughts. That's how we got to where we are today. So please do share, and I'll share our context, and we'll go from there, right? So yeah,
Yeah,
just don't think of it as set in stone is all I would say.
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Then thank you. I think
Yeah.
that's definitely helpful. And we start from. I, come on. So there is a R here which is not allowing me to. How to hide this?
Oh, it's the Zoom thing.
Yeah,
Super
Zoom
annoying,
was.
isn't it?
Yeah. Let me try to
Yeah.
move the details to the last. And then I can. Okay. Oh, yeah, it's
Yeah.
good.
Cool.
So in the process of gathering and incorporating feedbacks for learning,
Hmm.
platform engineering, and then any platforms that we'll build, the measure is like so challenging. And then when I was looking at Andrew Grabner talk on measuring the with observability how you manage the platforms,
Hmm.
he actually depicted the solution very well in the observability aspect of it, in each layer, how you find the metrics and collect it into a monitoring system and then start measuring it.
Hmm.
So I see that he's from the enterprise systems point of view, those kind of tools and process makes more sense. But when we start defining the maturity and then measures here, like I have a few things in my notes which I talk about. Yeah. So in terms of the initially when we say that a platform being provisioned, and
Hmm.
at that phase, the expectations that I am having from the platform is that at least start with identifying number of rollbacks per release. Like if you try to release a product, how many like times you are trying to roll back, like saying that, hey, we didn't uh, deploy it correctly. And so first time, because initially we do a lot, and many platforms where you build first few months of phase is that you revert a lot, right? And even though you do a reverting a lot, but a revert of changes, but still keep that as a measure. Like that way you see that you are improving on a consistent manner.
Yeah,
Uh,
I think that yes. So like how often do you have to revert or change, like yeah, fundamentally change something that you've released, not just upgrade it or improve it, but like undo something or whatever, I
undo
think is an
something.
interesting measure. It's sort
Yeah.
of like those Dora metrics, right? It's like change, failed change,
Yeah.
whatever, percentage and things. I
Yeah.
think that that's an interesting metric. I just want to call out that like that being a metric, in my opinion, doesn't define which stage someone would be at. In the sense that like the levels here, 1 through 4, speak to the like meta of measurement, like how people think about measuring their platform, more so than any specific either tool or measurement in specific, in the sense that like and so therefore like change fail percentage, let's talk about what that might look like at any of the 4 levels. So at like level 1, that might look like, you know, um every few months your director is like, hey, I've been noticing a whole lot of like fires going on in your support channel, like how's it been going, right? Like it's sort of ad hoc. Like then you kind of look back and you say, oh, we've released 10 things and 5 of them had to be rolled back, but like it's sort of like on-demand, kind of randomly checked in on, not something that you do like consistently or with intention, I guess, is maybe that, versus the exact same metric, which is like change fail percentage at level 2, where you're operationalized, is something that you track consistently. You may have that coming out of like a CI/CD pipeline metric that gets collected and graphed in Grafana on a dashboard, and like it's consistently there. And if you start to see that becomes too high a percentage as failure, you might do a prioritized task to like improve your testing or something, right? Like that sort of there. That exact same metric, but at the scaled level, might be quantitative and qualitative and higher level objectives. So you start to talk about like, what is the trust in your platform? So you sort of you combine the like actual reality of your CI/CD stats with like qualitative survey data that is collected in like a very like kind of consistent way. Because level 2, it might just be qualitative. You might not have any quantitative. It might be that you do a survey every month. Like
quantitative, we can measure here in terms of like once you become qualitatively implemented all these, how many people are adopting your platform and how are their the quantification is that like the value propagation that you are bringing to your platform. When you start evaluating at the scale level, that's actually a perfect entry for the actual teams who are adopting it. And then when you go to optimized, same metric can be you are qualitatively and quantitatively, you are consistently improving on things.
Yeah, I think so. This is a really good conversation because I think there's different ways of, there's different maybe priorities and value put on qualitative and quantitative data. And I think that it might be worth a conversation, like a wider conversation about it. Because in my opinion, it is, I don't think our maturity model should take a stance on one being significantly more important than the other. In my opinion, like you can be just as kind of blind to the reality of your world by using only quantitative data, so only data that's like collected through metrics and statistics and those kinds of things, because you just aren't collecting the right kind of data, or it's not tied into the experiences of the people using the platform, as you can be if you're just doing survey data and you're not actually seeing like quantitatively, you know, the realities of like how long things take or whatever, because people might be accepting of something that is actually unacceptable in duration, right? How long does it take to get a new resource? They might go, it's fine, because like they're used to it taking weeks and now it takes days. But like if you had quantitative data, you look at that and you go, oh, that's still not okay. It should only take hours, right? So I think that like the key of the model is not to speak to like a specific technique or tool or specific metric to track, though we can maybe give some examples. But instead of this is where like early on in the model history, people were very worried about this idea of king making, this idea of like, if we name a tool, technique, metric, something, people are going to latch on to it and they're going to be like, this is the correct way, right? The model says I should use open telemetry, so then if I want to be successful, I have to use open telemetry. The model says I have to use Jaeger for tracing. If I use anything else, I've failed, right? And we don't want that to be what it's used for. So we want to stay at that sort of, what are the outcomes that you're achieving? You're achieving visibility, you're achieving awareness, you're achieving feedback loops, like those kinds of levels, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think I'm definitely getting it, and we are trying to define a theoretical model. If you see in a mathematical world, like you say, you define an algorithm or a theory, this is what theorem is, and the theorem explanation can be varied depending on the use case that your data set that you're taking, but your theorem remains same, right? And
Yeah.
So Okay, so we have to think at that generalized level at each section. So how many metrics do you think is appropriate? For example, here, right? And few things that I have in my mind is like rollbacks and release in the platforms. And also I have seen like downtime of the platform, and then how frequently it is happening, and how stable from downtimes and frequency to stable platforms is another metric that I'm thinking. And also number of features being added to the added to the platforms also as another measure. Like these, how many that we should think through when we are defining this kind of measure?
Are you, just to make sure I know what you're asking, are you suggesting like that as a part of the details section, you will give like exemplar metrics or measurements that people might want to track? And so you might find yourself saying in the detailed section for measurement at level 1 provisional, here are 5 some number. You're asking me the number, but I'm making up a number. 5 metrics that, and here are their descriptions. And then when you get to level 2 operational, here's an additional, let's say, 5 more metrics, and here's their names and here's their definitions. Is that what you're thinking right now?
Yeah, I mean, especially when you're talking about measurement, and if we are not at least giving an examples of what we mean by, that might lead to a confusion even for adoption perspective. So at the detailed section, I would like to definitely give some kind of examples, but at the same time, I don't want it to be like people just follow it. And even I do see sometimes when you say 1, 2, 3, people just, and then you say, okay, you reminding you go and figure it out. But people stop there, 1, 2, 3, and then are done. Those are the 3 things what we are following.
Yeah.
So I don't want that to happen. But at the same time, any measurement, the problem is exactly that. And without having a detailed, specific examples, sometimes the adaptability of this maturity model might be questioned. Like, what are the factors that you were at least giving an example for that?
Interesting.
So,
yeah, I think so. You're asking my opinion of how many. So I'll be honest and say that my gut reaction is none. We don't want specific examples, but you're winning me over with like how you're talking about like you want this to be usable and like approachable by people. And so I'd love to see what you mean by that. Like giving an example, right? If you don't want to do all 4 levels because you're like, oh, if this isn't going to be the right format, I don't want to waste my time. Totally appreciate that. But doing maybe one of the levels and saying like, let's talk about what the format of this level looks like. Is this something that is a good sort of template for extending it to the other levels? Yeah, because I think that like, so just to like, I know as you say that you're sort of just joining into the group, and so I never know what people have sort of heard or are aware of as like the works in progress. So stop me if this is boring and you know all this. But one of the things we're excited about is that we are excited about an ecosystem of resources rather than feeling like any one resource has to solve all problems or answer all questions. So for example, the white paper leaves all sorts of things to be desired. Like, cool, you've told me what good looks like, but how the heck do I know if I'm doing it? And how the heck do I start doing it if I know I have gaps, right? And we're trying to answer one of those problems with this maturity model. We're trying to answer the question of how do you know if you're doing it, right? You read this white paper and you go, yeah, that sounds like me. Well, like, does it? Like, are you meeting and exceeding expectations of a mature platform? You can use this model to validate yourself, right? And to gain confidence and alignment across the industry that you are meeting and exceeding expectations of a mature platform or where your gaps are. But that whole like, how do you actually achieve it? Like, what is it that the tools and techniques and processes you could put into place to move yourself from a less mature level, so 1, 2, up to a more mature level, 3, 4. We expect that there's going to be some like longer form writing with the details. So for example, I know there's at least one person who's working on a paper that dives into the details around the concept of platform as a product, because that's a phrasing that we use a lot, but like, what does that actually mean is still a question that isn't answered by any of our documents yet. And I could imagine similarly a really good deep dive document that's like, okay, so you told me I should have measurement, and you told me that to be mature with measurement, I should be using qualitative and quantitative and having it influence my like mission on the platform and my objectives on the platform. But like, what? Like, what do you mean by that? Like, what are some things I could measure? How can I gather this data in an effective way? Like those kinds of like implementation details, those things that will change as new projects get accepted to the CNCF, and that as like new learnings about, you know, platform maturity come along, those kind of like lower durability things we would want to write a paper on that we can evolve faster than the higher level concepts we have in this paper, which is like kind of meta maturity. Does that make sense? So
Yeah.
yeah, so basically I'm not anti having any examples in this details section. I'm not like, absolutely not, VJ, don't even try it. But I am telling you why I'm hesitant that it will be a good fit. So I'd love to see your example and then be able to make a like have a better, more formed opinion. But
Yeah.
if my opinion sticks that I don't think this is the right place for it, I absolutely am excited about like a blog post or something else that captures that information, because I think it's really important detail to share. It's just, where do we share it, you know?
Yeah, I totally get you.
Yeah.
So there, at least when I start writing this, right, what I maybe I, because some work has been done already in the 1, 2, 3, and 4, I will use that as my base for the writing, in the sense like the model each level is talking, and then I try to define that, because for me, like right now I have this kind of measurement in my mind, but now I'm trying to generalize it. So I'll definitely follow one of these. So which one you recommend to follow as
like an example?
example? Yeah.
I think it sort of depends a little bit in how. So I would say I don't think operations is ready for prime time yet, so I wouldn't use that one. I would say it's a little bit dependent on how you like to think, in that like investment is a really interesting one, in that it is it's quite a methodical process that that they're going through, where Asare is like basically trying to define the word, like, or like the level. So at level 1 provisional, the word for investment is tactical instrument or voluntary or temporary. Like, what does that mean? Like, as a concept, create a definition, and then like kind of bullet point out ideas for how that would be made visible, or how like what the impact of that is or the outcome of that. And then he's going to come back through and write kind of like a 3 to 4 sentence paragraph about it. But that's like his process to make sure that he like captures the intention of the level, as well as some details, like detailed examples for the level. So if that works for you, I think that's a really interesting process he's going through. I think that both adoption and interface went straight to the paragraph format, and I think both of those are totally good examples as well. Like they're just approaching it differently, right? They're doing it with a little bit more, here's a paragraph, let's edit the paragraph. But yeah, I don't know, does that make sense?
Yeah, I actually joined. I really love the last time the investment discussion. One thing I find very useful is to include the past version in there during discussion, because that really, because there's so many things that Abby has driven through the good discussion already. So to start from scratch is almost impossible. So include the past version really helps in the discussion about investment.
That's the interesting thing about this one, VJ, though, is that you fortunately or unfortunately, have picked the section that we did not ever have a previous example of.
Yeah, I to be honest, why I landed here because in my organization, have been assigned a task of defining this kind of, like, even I propose something that, hey, we have to go through this. And
Yeah.
then what is the maturity model? I started working on it and I was going through every place and all. When I see this, I think this is where I should spend time on, not anywhere else. So even for my team within the company or within myself, like within the organization,
Yeah.
I am trying to define that measure. How to measure the platform success is what I'm working on. So that's why I'm going towards like quantifying it. Like, hey, all those quantification examples, I'm picking those metrics so that I can see that, hey, this is from starting of this maturity of this metric, by the time you to the matured state, this is that metric is varying like this.
Yeah.
So that's what that's why the discussion started directly with
why you jumped in there. Yeah, I think
yeah.
it's great that you did. And I think that like, I guess what I'm trying to tease out, and again, this is my opinion, I really, really think you should take a stab at least one of the levels in your own words and get feedback from more than just me, right? Like, I'm only one human, but like, these are just my opinions. But what I really love about what you just said is the focus on the ongoing the collection of a metric that you then spend time iterating on, learning on over time, right? So to me, that process and that outcome is the thing I'd love to capture and have other people who are maybe less experienced with measuring things than you are, have them be made aware of, right? So to me, what you're talking about there fits really, really well with level 2 operationalized. Like, what we introduce at level 2 is that idea of a consistent collection of metrics, right? So instead of talking about which metric we collect at level 2, what you're saying is at level 2, you value the ongoing like awareness and tracking of a single metric so that you can understand both growth and like regression in that metric, right? Whatever the metric is, whether it be failure rate, whether it be number of users, adoption, whatever the metric is you're doing, you value tracking it over time in a consistent way so that you can take action when that metric like surfaces a problem, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
One is a metric, right? Other one is a percentage. Like, one metric is a count that is incrementing, right? The other one is the percentage of like adaptability, so adaptability is one thing. Like that, like sometimes we have to measure with the percentage also in some metrics. So
Yep. So like that's introducing like that there are different types of metrics might be helpful at some point as well. Yeah.
yeah.
Be a 7 rows instead of 5. I even missed that. I actually went back and watched some of the old videos. I couldn't find where the decision was made to I don't know if there's some discussion about the last two. There'll be like 7 rows right now become 5 row. Where did that transition into 5 row and which become measurement?
Yeah.
I don't know. I didn't even get to that part.
No, it's a fantastic question, Victor. So there's a couple of questions in there. So first of all, that I want to hopefully answer all of them. So first of all, the question was, how did we go from the 7 that we had before to only having 5 now? The answer is that after those early deep dive videos, I basically just sat down with everybody's feedback and said, all right, what happens if I try and make everybody happy? A, I go mentally insane. But B, I result in this like a table that has these words and these rows and these levels. And then I basically tried to it was sort of me coalescing all that information together. That was
That
then
maybe that 7 row is a good reference as a past version because it's kind of related.
Yeah, so at the bottom of, so if you go to the main document, there is at the bottom links to all the old versions. So version like so I think 001 might need to have a bit of permissions opened back up again. It seems that might be broken. Let me make sure of that. Share should be anyone with link should be able to view that. Yep. Okay, done. Cool. So yeah, so you've got the like versions at the end. But the second question you asked was which one of those original ones went to measurement, and that was exactly VJ. That's why I sent you that link in the meeting chat, or I will send you both the link in the meeting chat. We didn't have one for measurement before. It was actually a new idea that was presented only about 2 weeks ago or so when we realized that there was a bit of a gap in the table. So VJ, I sent you that link because I would recommend that you incorporate the humans in that thread into reviewing this section, because they're the ones that sort of prompted the need for this section, and they may have some really good ideas and be able to help as well. So either before or after, like, you create your kind of ideas on paper, like you could do it, you could have that chat now, kind of place some of your question marks in that thread or pull those humans into a different thread, or you could try and take a stab at a draft and then pass the draft to them and say, we're
Yeah.
working on the measurement, you may have some opinions. So
Yeah, definitely. So maybe like as a next step, what I can do is that I will start writing that in my way into the documentation first, and one is, and also I'll try to share it with the rest of the team who are all the, hey, I started measuring like this, and then I'm writing like this, and for first iteration, please feel free to edit or update or even give me a comments like how I can be better at it, because like so deep into thinking of that metrics, like how to measure this, and how I'm progressing this. Now I had to relearn for myself, unlearn and then relearn. Don't, yeah, metrics, you think like a next phase. Before that, even before defining the metrics, like now you have to even define like a theory, your theorem. This is how we are each measure of the things look like, and then go to the next detailed section later. So
yeah, I think the big thing is I love that this is really concrete for you because it's what you're doing at work. But at the same time, the model that we're creating here is meant to be industry wide, right? For companies of all shapes and sizes, for all levels of maturity, should be able to read it. And so there is sort of that need to like step back and step up
yeah,
when thinking about what we're writing here. But given your experience at work day to day, you should, once you've written this higher level like theorem, as you say, you should be able to put on your workday hat, read it, and get value from it. So that would be a good test for like, don't go so abstract that it's
yeah,
not useful to like you on your day-to-day work, but also don't go so detailed that unless somebody works with you at your company, it's not going to make a lot of sense to them, right? There's sort of
yeah.
that balancing between the two.
Exactly. I
That we
think
need to do.
I'm definitely going to enjoy this particular conversation because of two ways. One, I am the tester of my code. I am writing a code and I am testing my code. So it's
Yeah.
very
A little TDD action. I love it.
yeah, sure. And then I'll also try to scale from company of a small scale to medium to a large scale, and then large scale has different models of platform engineering teams, and mid scale has different, and startups has different, right? So when you see the scale and you try to apply it, and I think it's going to definitely be interesting next 7 days for me before we meet again. So
Yeah. And don't feel like you have to wait 7 days to talk again. Go throw stuff into Slack. Let me know if you need any time. But
yeah,
yeah,
sure.
definitely just take a stab. And I sort of come into the documents every couple days and see if anyone needs any feedback or anything. And then we'll get ready for a bigger chat next week. I think next week what we'll get out of that hopefully is a better alignment on like format and like abstraction level, like how detailed things should be and all of that. Because remember, we have 5 different authors right now, all going off and like thinking deeply about their subjects, and then we're going to come back and go, ooh, that I really like how you did that. Oh, I really like how you did that. Okay, let's balance those two things together and
Yeah.
create like a
Unfortunately,
consistent format,
so maybe unfortunately I'm alone in this project. So if you would like to spare a few
Yeah.
hours.
Absolutely. I'm around anytime. I'm sort of the floater. So anywhere that anyone needs a rubber ducky or a support system, I'm there to help. So yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Definitely then. Yeah, I'll keep you posted on all of these because I took the toughest section of the table and then I
I agree.
it's a good.
Fantastic.
So, thank you. Thanks for your time. If you have
No,
anything, feel free to message me or live in the group as well.
absolutely. Thank you for your time. Appreciate you putting thought into this and looking forward to seeing what you come out with. So yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Awesome.
Thanks, Victor. Yeah. See
Bye,
you.
Victor, as well. Bye, y'all.